Good morning, hello, and welcome to the CY2022 5310 Mandatory Application Webinar. My name is Paula Hyman from the Ohio LTAP Center, and I will be your technical support for today's webinar. Just a couple of items to cover. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please type them into the questions box, and our presenter will address your questions periodically throughout the presentation. There are 2 documents available to download in the handout section. If for some reason you are unable to download these documents, they will be emailed at the completion of the webinar to the group. This webinar is being recorded. Providing that the recording is successful, the YouTube link will also be emailed to all the participants. It will also be uploaded to our LTAP website. I want to thank you in advance for your participation. And with that, I'll pass things off to Ms. Kiera Branch, 5310 Program Coordinator with ODOT.
Thank you, Paula. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the calendar year 2022 5310 Application Workshop. Again, my name is Kiera Branch, 5310 Program Coordinator with ODOT, Office of Transit. And before we begin the presentation, I do have a early morning brain starter. So there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to cover throughout the presentation. I kind of wanted to get your brain working just a little bit and wake everyone up if you are still asleep. If you wouldn't mind going to www.menti.com and putting in the code, I do have 2 questions for you. And I'm going to pull those questions up while you are accessing the website. 1 second. I'll give everyone a few moments to grab the code. And I do believe that Paula put the code in the chat box as well. Alrighty, so how is everyone feeling this morning? And you can type in the bubble box as well. Okay, someone said not bad, sleepy. I hear that. Yes, spring is starting. I'm excited for spring as well. Okay, I have a few questions coming in, and I believe everyone can see my screen as well to see some of the questions that are coming in. Yes, Friday, it's great. Ready for the weekend, just peachy, good, cold but awake, exhausted, ready for the weekend. And then I'll also go to the second question as well. So what are you drinking this morning? Coffee, tea, water? It's Friday, so that answers that question. All right, it looks like everyone is having coffee this morning. All righty, thank you everyone for participating, excuse me, in the Menti questionnaire. I'll go ahead and begin the presentation. There are a few presentation items or agenda items during this presentation that I'll discuss, such as the overview of the program. I will have some test your knowledge questions throughout the presentation just to gauge your involvement and how you are retaining the knowledge of the presentation. Discussing some new documents for calendar year 2022, as well as all of the 5310 projects that are eligible, and then answering questions throughout the presentation. So the purpose of the Specialized Transportation Program is to enhance the mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities by removing barriers to transportation services and expanding those transportation services and mobility options. So when ODOT is selecting projects and we're reviewing projects for recommendations and funding, we're really looking to see how this specific project or the projects for which you applied for, how they fit within the goal and purpose of the program. So how will this project not only expand mobility options, but how will this project also expand the transportation options that are available, and removing barriers to transportation. I do want to make note of how FTA defines a senior and an individual with a disability, just to ensure that your project remains in compliance with the program purpose. So FTA defines a senior as any person age 65 or above, and then an individual with a disability having a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. And any project that is selected for 5310 funding must be included in a coordinated plan. And what that coordinated plan does is it identifies the community resources for transportation, identifying the gaps and unmet transportation needs within those resources, and determines the best approach to addressing those unmet transportation needs. ODOT is shifting towards coordinated efforts, and we're really going to dig deep and take a deep dive into the coordinated plan to ensure that projects are meeting and are addressing the goals and strategies within that plan. So it definitely is important that your project is included within that coordinated plan, and you are addressing one or more goals and strategies within that plan. ODOT does have a coordinated plan template and guidance that we do have on our website. So if you are updating your plan or creating a plan, that you can utilize that template. We do encourage you to utilize that template as well. And if you are seeking participation in coordination, you will want to reach out to the lead agency in your area. And the few eligible projects within the 5310 program include operating assistance, preventative maintenance for 5310 funded vehicles, and then computer hardware and software equipment. And throughout the presentation, I'll go through each of the projects and any requirements and contractual rights of those projects as well. So here goes those test your knowledge questions I told you guys about. So if your project receives funding under Section 5310, so if you're selected for funding for the program, is your project required to be included in a coordinated plan? And then Paula, if you could just provide, or Macy, any feedback on some of the responses that you're receiving for the questions. Okay, I'm getting a few yeses, so great. And then who in your area should you reach out to if you are seeking participation in a coordinated plan or the coordinated planning process? So yes, the lead agency in your area. So FTA does require all Section 5310 projects to be included in a coordinated plan. And if you are seeking participation in your coordinated plan, then you will want to reach out to the lead agency in your area. So vehicle projects. So if you're selected for a vehicle, if you're selected for a 5310 vehicle, vehicles are to be used for the program related needs for which the Section 5310 program is made. So removing barriers to transportation services and expanding those mobility options. I do receive questions from subrecipients regarding the general public, if the general public is able to utilize the transportation services that are provided from that vehicle, and that answer is yes. However, the general public utilizing that vehicle in that transportation service must not impact or impede the transportation that's utilized for seniors and individuals with disabilities. And it is crucial that all subrecipients comply with all of the contractual requirements for the use of that 5310 vehicle until it has met disposition, and that disposition has been approved by ODOT. If for any reason the vehicle is no longer needed for the original purpose of the program, or if it's not utilized for the original project purpose, then please contact ODOT immediately so that we can figure out the best way to repurpose that vehicle in the program. So the vehicle ordering process. I do want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the vehicle ordering process within the 5310 program, because I noticed that I do receive a lot of questions regarding the process and how it actually works. So I did want to just take a few moments to kind of go through the process to ensure that you're aware of the process and some things to look out for. So let's say that you have been awarded a vehicle for the program. the first thing that'll happen is you'll receive a contract, and that contract will have the vehicle information, so the vehicle type and then the total project cost, federal and local share on that contract. If there are other projects that you have applied for and received, those projects will also be included on that contract as well. Once you have received that contract, the authorizing official or the individual that's authorized to sign on behalf of the agency will execute that contract and send that contract back to ODOT. Once ODOT has received the contract, that is when you will receive a vehicle cost worksheet. And the vehicle cost worksheet looks very similar to the vehicle cost worksheet that you will find in the 5310 application. Once you receive that vehicle cost worksheet, you will actually fill out and select all of your vehicle specifications. So the vehicle type, your agency information, and you'll actually select the vendor on that vehicle cost worksheet. Once all that has been completed, your agency will sign the form. Once the form has been signed, you will send that vehicle cost worksheet over to the vehicle vendor of your choice, the vehicle vendor that you selected on the form. Once the vehicle vendor has signed the form, they will send that form back to you. You will then send that form to ODOT. Once ODOT receives the vehicle cost worksheet, you will be invoiced for the local share payment of you will be sent a local share invoice, so the 20% local share of that vehicle. And on that local share, you'll see the payment that's due for the vehicle, as well as your agency information, and then the due date for that payment. The invoice payment is usually due, or is due 30 days after you have received the invoice. If for any reason, you need an extension, please feel free to reach out to me. But once you receive that local share invoice, you will send that payment back to ODOT. Once ODOT receives the local share invoice payment, that is when ODOT will generate the purchase order. So I'll go in and I'll request that purchase order from our finance department. Once I have the purchase order, which usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks, but once I have that purchase order, I will go ahead and send that purchase order over to the vendor along with your assigned vehicle cost worksheet, so that the vendor can confirm that all of the vehicle specifications that are on the purchase order also match your vehicle cost worksheet. Once the vendor receives that information, they have 180 days from the date that they receive the purchase order, so roughly 6 months, to deliver the vehicle to the subrecipient. The vendor is not required to deliver the vehicle before 180 days. However, if the purchase order has been sent and you notice that it's past 180 days, please feel free to reach out to ODOT, and I can reach out to the vendor to get the status of that vehicle. But I did want to take just a few moments to really go through the vehicle ordering process, because I want subrecipients to be aware that once you receive the contract and it has been executed and then you've sent the local share payment, it's not a very quick and fast turnaround time for the vehicle, just because there are a lot of moving parts within the process. So please be aware of that when you are applying for vehicles. So if you do apply for a vehicle within the summertime, you're expected to receive that vehicle usually around the fall and vice versa. Again, the local share payment, FTA ODOT provides the 80% funding for a capital project. A vehicle is a capital project. The local share invoice will include that 20% amount of that vehicle that you customize. So that 20% will come from the total project cost that will be shown on the vehicle cost worksheet. The invoice and the local share payment must be received by the due date. So again, that local share payment, you'll have a due date of 30 days, but for any reason there's any issue that arises, please feel free to reach out to me and we can kind of work through that. And then a few sources of local match include private donations, net income generated from advertising, and dedicated tax revenues. Local match cannot be any other DOT, from any other DOT federal program. And ODOT also has a vehicle selection guide. So when you're looking at your vehicle cost worksheet and you're taking a look at all of the specifications and determining, which vehicle might be best for your agency, we actually have a selection guide in which you can go through that document that has a table of contents as well as information about each vehicle. It also has a vehicle summary, a standard equipment information, a floor plan. So if you're taking a look at the vehicle and wanting to kind of see how the vehicle will look in the inside and how it's built, there is a floor plan in there as well. as well as just a few images of optional equipment. So if you're, for example, looking at the vehicle cost worksheet and looking at things that you can add and remove, and you're wondering what they look like. There are photos within the vehicle selection guide that show, the single passenger seat with guardrails, double passenger seat with guardrails, and then the passenger jump seat. So you do have some information there in case you're needing additional information and wanting to make that decision on that vehicle. You are more than welcome to reach out to the vehicle vendor if you do have any questions about the specific vehicle cost worksheet and the vehicle that you are selecting, or feel free to reach out to ODOT and we can assist you as well. So vehicle reporting is important if you do have an active 5310 funded vehicle or you are seeking to receive a 5310 funded vehicle. ODOT subrecipients are required to report on their 5310 funded vehicle semi-annually, so twice a year. There's 2 reporting periods, report period 1 and report period 2. And those dates are, the due date for the first reporting period is July 30th, and the second due date is January 31st. Now, ODOT will attempt to send reminders along with the document that shows the vehicle VIN numbers for all of the active vehicles that we have in our system. But I do, encourage all subrecipients to definitely mark your calendars and bookmark the vehicle monitoring report link so that you can ensure that you're submitting your reports on time and that you are submitting those reports. There is scoring that is developed around the vehicle monitoring report. So you definitely want to make sure that you do submit those reports because it can impact your scores and any future 5310 funding opportunities. I do have listed here the vehicle monitoring report, and you'll also have that in the presentation as well. And subrecipients are required to continue to report on all active 5310 funded vehicles until they have met disposition. And once a vehicle has met disposition, in order to request disposition for a vehicle, you will submit that request through FormStack. Once that request has been submitted, ODOT will be notified. I'll go in and I'll review the request. Once the request has been reviewed and it has been determined that the vehicle is eligible for disposition and has met the disposition requirements, ODOT will then send a release of lien letter along with the title to the subrecipient. Now, I do want to make mention that there are several agencies that have had staff transition as well as ODOT having staff transition. So there are titles that we do not have in our office because they have already been sent out years prior. And that's mostly for the vehicles that are well beyond the age and mileage requirement. So when sending out that release of lien letter, I noticed that the title is not in our office. I'll send a letter to the agency or to the subrecipient that you can take to your county clerk's office as proof that the lien has been removed and for a replacement title on that vehicle. However, if I do want to make mention, if the disposition request is not approved, the agency can resubmit the request once it has met disposition, once that vehicle has met disposition. However, you are still required to report on that vehicle. ODOT also has created ODOT disposition guidelines chart, which shows the vehicle type as well as the eligibility requirements. So for example, if you have an SMV or an MMV, 5 years and 120,000 miles is the age and mileage requirement, or if it has, if the age requirement is 10 years, or the mileage of the vehicle is 150,000 miles. So vehicles have the age and mileage requirement or one or the other. So it doesn't necessarily have to be both. It just depends on the vehicle type. Here's those test your knowledge questions again. So are vehicles considered a capital or an operating expense? Okay, I'm taking a look at the chat box, and yes, vehicles are capital expenses. And then I did want to stop because I seen a question regarding, can you repeat the 180 days from Ashley? So Ashley, the 180 days is the time frame from when the vehicle vendor is required to deliver that vehicle to your agency. So that's 6 months. So once they receive the purchase order from ODOT, they have 180 days, so 6 months from that date to deliver that vehicle to the subrecipient. Capital. Okay, and then FTA will provide, and I did see some questions, 80% for capital projects. And then how often are you required to report on your 5310 funded vehicle? So I'm seeing some answers coming in. Yes, so you are required to report on that vehicle semi-annually, so twice a year. And then what are a few eligibility requirements that deem a vehicle eligible for disposition? Alrighty, I'm seeing some answers come in. So yes, age and mileage or both, again, just dependent upon the vehicle type. And then you have a 2013 Dodge MMV with 124,000 miles. Is this vehicle able to be disposed? Alrighty, so this is a great group here, getting a lot of right answers. So yes, this vehicle is able to be disposed. According to the disposition chart, the vehicle has satisfied the age and mileage requirement for dispositions for MMVs. So if you remember, for an MMV or an SMV, the age and mileage requirements, one of the age and mileage requirements was 5 years and 120,000 miles. This vehicle is a 2013, so it has well surpassed the age requirement, and then it has 124,000 miles, which is beyond the 120,000 mileage requirement. Ready, capitalized maintenance. So capitalized maintenance is another project that is eligible under the 5310 program. This capitalized maintenance is for all maintenance costs related to active 5310 funded vehicles only. So I do want to stress this is just a grant for your active 5310 funded vehicles. This is not a grant for all of the vehicles within your fleet. And capitalized maintenance is defined as all activities, materials, services that are associated costs required to preserve and extend the serviceability of that particular vehicle, that active 5310 vehicle. You can reference the Uniform System of Accounts or the USOA when you are determining eligible activities under the capitalized maintenance grant. So when you are filling out your invoice, and I know that we do have a few new applicants on the webinar as well, but when you are filling out your capital maintenance invoice, you will see that there will be several line items in which you can claim expenses. You can claim expenses for the vehicle. And the USOA you can reference when you are determining if those expenses that you're wanting to claim on that invoice are eligible for reimbursement. In pages 65 through 71, the 041 Maintenance Administration section is what you can reference in particular to capitalized maintenance. Capitalized maintenance does follow a reimbursement process. So subrecipients submit invoices to ODOT quarterly, and the invoice due dates are as follows. So quarterly over the year, due April 15th, July 15th, October 15th, and February 15th. I know there were, during the pandemic, there were a few agencies that needed to have an extension on their invoice, which was completely fine. I do ask that if you are not able to submit your invoice by the due date, please feel free to reach out to me. I just want to make note of that, provide you with any resources that you need, and answer any questions that you have regarding the invoice. Equipment is also another eligible project within the 5310 program. Computer hardware and computer software equipment that supports 5310 funded vehicles and any operations that seek to remove barriers of transportation for individuals with disabilities and seniors. And a few of those examples include scheduling and dispatching software, office equipment, as well as radios for buses. And ODOT will reimburse 80% of the total project cost up to the contract amount. 80%, again, this equipment is a capital project, so it is 80%, and then the agency will cover the 20% local match. Here are a few examples. I won't read those verbatim. I know I don't like when people just read PowerPoints, so I'll just go ahead and have this information within the PowerPoint, which gives information regarding the reimbursement for a capital project. I do also want to make mention that if you do receive a computer hardware or software equipment project, that project must be procured and purchased by the agency before ODOT will issue the funds. So the subrecipient will purchase that item first, and then you will send that information over to ODOT, including the invoice, before the project is reimbursed. I also encourage you, before you actually purchase that equipment, to reach out to ODOT to inform us of the purchase price, as well as any information regarding that equipment before you actually purchase it, just so ODOT can ensure that that project doesn't need any particular procurement process to go through. And that procurement process is based on the actual price of the equipment. So depending on if it's a micro purchase, if it's a small purchase, or a large purchase, that is where that procurement policy will come in. And once you send that information over to ODOT and inform us of the actual price of the equipment, we'll work with our compliance department to ensure all of the procurement documents you have to fill out, as well as the procurement policy that you'll have to go through, or procurement process. And before I move into operating, I do see that I have a few questions, so I just want to go through them just very quickly. If the vehicle is still operable, can you drive after disposition? So yes, you can still utilize the vehicle after it has been disposed, but you'll just want to make sure that if the vehicle has met disposition, that you do fill out that disposition request. But yes, you can still utilize the vehicle even after it's been disposed. And then thought I saw another question. I think from Leslie, will it cover the annual contract for services with the software program, like the annual licensing for the software? Leslie, I'm not sure what you mean. Could you provide just some more clarification? Are you asking, I just want to be sure, are you asking if the reimbursement will cover the licensing for the actual equipment software? And I'll let you so the reimbursement will just be for the computer project. So if that costs, that annual licensing software, if I'm understanding correctly, if that is not included in the price, won't be this is just a one-time reimbursement. It's not a reimbursement that's on a quarterly basis like operating and capital maintenance. All righty, and I didn't see any more questions, so I'll move into the operating project. So operating is a 50-50 split, which is different than a capital project. So ODOT will reimburse 50% of the operating costs, and the local will provide 50% of the locals will be responsible for the 50% operating costs. And operating expenses are those costs necessary to maintain and manage the transportation services. So for example, if you hire drivers, this grant will be utilized for driver salaries, fuel, and then any items having a useful life of less than 1 year. In addition to this, the operating grant works different than a capitalized maintenance grant. If you remember, a capitalized maintenance grant is only for those, or pertains to those vehicles that are active 5310 funded vehicles. And for an operating grant, it can be applied to all of the vehicles within your fleet, even if they're not 5310 funded vehicles. In order to be eligible for an operating grant, operating subrecipients must provide open door service to receive operating assistance. So I do have a few questions here that you can think about when you are applying for operating assistance. Does your agency provide transportation to and from your facility? Do you only provide transportation to a particular clientele? Can anyone in your service area, whether it be based on age, disability, or other, request transportation through your agency? So I kind of want to focus on question 2. If you only provide, so let's say your agency only provides transportation to a particular clientele. So this individual has to be a part of a church or a specific group. They have to be a part of maybe a specific organization. That would actually deem your agency ineligible for operating assistance, because that would make your agency closed door if you answer yes to question number 2. You would have to be open door and provide, and anyone can utilize the service, whether it be based on age, disability, or other. Operating assistance does follow the same reimbursement process as capitalized maintenance. So subrecipients will submit their invoices to ODOT quarterly, and those invoices will actually be submitted to the program coordinator via email. ODOT does complete invoice training for capitalized maintenance and operating subrecipients, and that usually takes place during the first quarter, so quarter 1, just to ensure that you have all of the necessary information to be successful and complete that invoice. And again, due dates are as follows: April 15th, July 15th, October 15th, and February 15th. Again, for any reason, if you have to submit the invoice later or you need an extension, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can definitely make sure I provide you with all of the necessary resources that you need and answer any questions that you have. Those test your knowledge questions again, they're always popping up, huh? So are invoices for operating reimbursement submitted on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis? So I am getting a few responses. So invoices for operating, they are submitted on a quarterly basis. I did get a few responses that they're submitted on an annual. So I just want to remind you that they are submitted on a quarterly basis. I'm just going to go back just quickly. Again, due April 15th, July 15th, October 15th, and February 15th. And then will ODOT reimburse 80% of the final total project cost, or for the total project cost up to the contract amount? So this is in reference to the computer hardware and software equipment of the project. And then Maureen asked a question, is that new? Maureen, could you provide just some clarification on what you mean, is that new? I think this might pertain to something I said in the presentation, but I'm just now seeing the question, so I just want to make sure I get it answered for you. Alrighty, ODOT will reimburse 80% of the total project cost up to the contract amount. I did see a few of those responses in the chat as well. And then what percentage will ODOT reimburse for an operating project? Alrighty, so I did get a few good responses in here. So ODOT will reimburse the 50%, and the locals are responsible for the other 50% of the operating project. Application, what we all been waiting for, huh? Alrighty, so how to apply. The letter of intent is due each year. It's usually due in February. So congratulations to everyone whose letter of intent is approved. I didn't have any issues with anyone's letter of intent. So I really do appreciate everyone for submitting their letter of intent and also asking all of the necessary questions you needed to successfully submit that document. And again, it's usually due every year in February. The date does change. Now that your letter of intent has been approved, it's the reason you are at the mandatory application workshop today. The 5310 program is a competitive program with an annual application, and that application is submitted through our Black Cat system. That is a system that we did utilize last year, and we will utilize that again this year. I do know I have several subrecipients that are new to the ODOT's 5310 program. So I will go through the Black Hat system so that you are familiar with how that works and what to look for. The application for 5310 will be published this Monday, so March 22nd, and I will send out an email once I will go ahead and send out an email once it has been published, and then applications are due Friday, April 30th. So you have a little bit over a month to submit that application. And I do want to just take some time to go through the Black Hat system really quickly. Just want to make sure. I want to make sure that everyone can see my screen. Okay, so I did go ahead and get a few responses that everyone can see. So this is what Black Hat will look like for an applicant once you come in and you have access to Black Hat. So you'll see this will be the 5310 application. This will be the 5310 application, and you'll have several different documents that you will need to upload. This will look slightly different on your screen. As a subrecipient or as an applicant, when you are applying for the 5310 program, all of these checkboxes here, all the way to the bottom, they will be gray. So everything will be gray. All of the documents that are required uploads for all applicants, once you have uploaded those will turn green. However, those documents that only pertain to the specific project for which you're applying for, those will remain blue. So for example, if you are applying for a vehicle project, you will only need to, of course, submit all of the documents that are grayed here. Again, these will be gray. And then you'll scroll down and you'll see that there are documents that are required for vehicle applicants. The same is true for operating and capitalized maintenance as well. Of course, if you're applying for all three projects, then you will submit not only all of the documents that are required for all applicants, but those documents that are required for those projects. However, if it's just one or the other, then you will just submit those documents that are required. There is an application checklist that has been built out for 5310. So, when you do upload your application or when you're going through your application, please just make sure you have the application checklist next to you so that when you're uploading those documents and you're filling out those documents, you know all of the documents within the 5310 program that need to be uploaded to the application. And go back to the PowerPoint really quickly. So that is Black Hat. And if you're new to Black Hat or if you're having any issues with the account that you currently have set up, please feel free to reach out to Joachim Beam. I have his contact information here and he can provide you with I do apologize. I noticed I didn't put his email here, but I will go ahead and make sure that his email gets out to you guys. But if you are new with setting up Black Hat, please feel free to reach out to Joachim and he can assist you with getting access. He can assist you with setting up your account, but also feel free to reach out to me as well and I can connect you with Joachim and we can get that set up for you. Alrighty, so there are a few documents that require signature and approval. So I want to put these documents on your radar so that as you're going through the application, you're not waiting to the last minute to get those documents signed. So the search and insurance document, authorizing resolution, local match certification, application checklist, as well as the application certification are a few documents that do require signature and approval. The general applicant information certification, yes, I know this is a very long name. The general applicant information document. This is a new document this year for all federal programs, including the 5310 program. So if you are an applicant that applies for 5310, and you might apply for mobility management, and you might apply for 5339 or 5311. If you're applying for all of those programs, last year you'll notice that you had to go through each application and fill out that specific application's general application information document. To remove duplication and to only have you just submit one document, ODOT has come together just to create one document that can be used for all federal programs. So if you apply for 5311, 5310, mobility management, you're only going to fill out just one document. And once that document has been filled out, you'll notice in the 5310 application that there will be the general applicant certification form. And that form gives you the background of what this document is, and you have to sign and confirm that you have uploaded it. I'm going to take some time right now to go through that general applicant form so that you're aware of what it looks like and some of the questions that we actually ask. Just one moment while it gets pulled up here. I'm going to pull this up in Google just because it works better here. Alrighty, so here is the general applicant form. Again, this is just the form for all federal programs, and you're able to select all the funding programs that you are seeking for calendar year 2022, and it does have logic built in depending on the programs that you applied for. So if you select 5310 and mobility management, there are questions that will populate. We also have just application information section, general information about your agency. All of the questions are not required just because all the questions may not be applicable or pertain to your organization. We do ask for the legal name, business address, county served, agency type, primary county of service, your EIN number, as well as your DUNS number, and also your SAMS code as well. I do know that there are some issues with trying to register with SAMS, so please feel free to reach out to me if you do not currently have a SAMS code. I can send you over the link to register for SAMS so that you can generate that code. I do want to make note that SAM is free to register. It does not cost at all. So if you are, on the website or you're on a website and there are things you're seeing that require you to put in a credit card number or put in your payment information, that is the incorrect website. Please do not use that website. Just contact me and I can make sure you get the correct website over to you. We also ask about, your service area. So describing your service area, the segment of population served, so seniors, low income, general public. Again, those are just check boxes. And then this is where we kind of get into the weeds of the form. So the applicant contact information. So when we're asking questions about, program related matters, who within the agency would ODOT contact for any program related questions that we have, as well as any business or administrative matters, making sure you add that contact information here. There were a few questions within the 5311 and the 5339 webinars regarding, if you're applying for 5310 and 5339 and you have a different business person, you have a different administrative contact for each program, how would you put in that information? So this form has been updated, or from my knowledge, has been updated to reflect that information. And then you can have the option here to select that information will be the same. Also if we have any financial questions, who does ODOT reach out to if we have any questions regarding your invoice, as well as your placing the authorized official within the document as well. I do want to note that ODOT will be reviewing the authorizing resolutions with our legal department when we are reviewing applications to not only make sure that the document, the authorizing resolution language is updated, but also to ensure that ODOT is aware of what the authorizing official can do. So I do want to mention that, make sure you're taking a look at the authorizing resolution and aware of what it states, because if the authorizing resolution states that the authorized official, or this person who is authorized within that document, is the only person to submit financial documentation to ODOT, and then I receive the invoice, your capitalized maintenance or operating invoice from the program contact, then that will cause an issue. So definitely make sure that you are aware of what the authorizing official, what the language is within that authorizing resolution document. We also ask questions about your technical capacity. So describing your organizational structure as it relates to the successful implementation of the project. So if you're applying for multiple projects or wanting to know, who will handle what and how that, organizational structure is set. And then selecting all of the policies and procedures that are currently implemented at your organization. So these do not require an upload. We do just ask for you to, select what is in place within your agency. And then we do have attachments here. So this is where you can attach your authorizing resolution, your certs and insurances, as well as your agency audit. So these documents will not be attached to your 5310 application in Black Hat. They will actually be attached here into this document. And then once that general applicant information form in form stack, once it has been submitted, ODOT will be notified. Once that has been submitted, you're only, again, one form completed for all federal programs, and then you will need to sign the applicant certification form and upload that to Black Hat. So this is the form that you will see within the 5310 Black Hat application. You'll see this form. Again, it'll give you background on what the form is. It'll even have a link here to remind you, just in case you forget that the form needs to be submitted in form stack. And then the authorizing official, will need to sign the form. Once the form has been signed, that is when you will upload it to the application for all of the federal programs that you apply for. So this is the only form that needs to be uploaded more than once, but not the general application form. That form is just submitted in form stack one time. What's new for 5310 is the important documents section. So for those applicants that are returning applicants, you know that the preventative maintenance plan, Title VI documentation, and procurement policy are more of those documents that you submit every year, and they really don't change from year to year. And so our compliance department, moving forward, will review those documents just to make sure they're in compliance, so that every year when you're coming to apply for 5310, you don't have to continue to upload those documents every year, especially if anything doesn't change. So you'll actually upload those important documents, the procurement policy, Title VI document, and preventative maintenance plan. You'll upload those in your Black Hat system. For new applicants, once you set up your account, you will actually upload those documents as well. And I'll take some time to go to the Black Hat system so that you can see how that's actually uploaded. So let's say you're in Black Hat and you are wanting to upload your important documents section. On my end, it looks a little bit different, but I'm just going to use an agency for example. Just really quickly, you will go to your important documents section here. You will select compliance review. And then under the compliance review, you will select the document type. So for example, you'll select procurement policy or your Title VI documentation. You'll continue to select all of those documents that need to be uploaded. And again, it is just three: your preventative maintenance vehicle maintenance plan, as well as your procurement policy and your Title VI document. Once you have selected which document is going to be uploaded, you will receive this arrow button here. That's what you'll click on to actually upload those documents. So those documents, again, will no longer be uploaded within the application in Black Hat, but they will be uploaded, they will be uploaded in Black Hat, but no longer under your application. They will be uploaded under your profile so that our compliance department can review those. Alrighty, what's also new for 5310, I know a lot of new things, is the vehicle inventory. So this speaks to those applicants that currently have 5310 funded vehicles. And this is in relation to your vehicle information sheet. So if you're aware, once you download the vehicle information sheet and you're filling it out, it does ask you if you are seeking a replacement vehicle. One, if you are a returning applicant, and then also if you are receiving a replacement or a expansion vehicle. I do ask that, going forward, your inventory in Black Hat for all of your vehicles under your profile is updated with all of your vehicle information. So those vehicles that are disposed, that information will be updated, such as the mileage, as well as the year of that vehicle and any other vehicle information such as the vehicle inventory tab. Now, I know with some of the new documents, you're thinking, wow, that's a lot within the presentation, but I want to let you know that the application checklist has been built out to include this information. So as you are going through your application, the application checklist is there so that when you are going through these documents, it will tell you, okay, for this document here, it needs to be uploaded here. For this document, it will be uploaded there. That is how I have broken down the application checklist, as I know this is a lot of information and it's also new information as well. So to ensure that things are being submitted in the right place, please refer to that application checklist, which is also required to be signed as well. What's also new is the coordinated plan support document, which has also been built out, and I'll go over that coordinated plan support document with you. But as ODOT is reviewing projects and we are selecting projects for funding, we're really, again, going to dig deep through that, take a dive through that coordinated plan and making sure that your project is, you know, addressing the goals and strategies within that plan. We also ask questions throughout the coordinated plan support document, which is a support form to that coordinated plan, where you will address your project in more detail. And I'll actually go through that document here with you just briefly. So within the coordinated plan support document, it's broken down into 3 sections: your general information, as well as your participation and coordination efforts, and community impact. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. So sorry if I gave anybody a headache. General information, again, organization name, applicant name, just information about your agency. And then we're asking about the counties or counties in your service area. And then taking a dive into the participation and coordination. Now, looking to see, is this project listed in the coordinated plan? If you're the lead agency of that coordinated plan, is this project actually supported by the lead agency? You know, and then also if you've submitted all of your transportation provider information within the lead agency to the lead agency. And then describing your level of participation in that coordinated planning process, listing the goals and strategies that your project seeks to address, and describing how your project will actually address those goals and unmet needs. We're asking, is there more than one agency that's actually partnering on this particular project? And then the impact in your community and or region for this particular project. You know, will this project increase ridership? Will this project expand beyond the current service areas? And again, these are just yes and no questions, and logic is built in here as well. You know, if it doesn't increase ridership, you'll just select no. But if it does, we do ask that, you know, for each question, if you do answer yes, you are required to give a narrative and a summary of how that project will actually, you know, increase ridership or expand beyond current service hours. And then we do have a question here. Please explain the impact if project is not selected for funding. So last year, what was new in the 5310 program is I started to do exit interviews. And within the exit interviews, I noticed that there were, in my discussions, there were conversations regarding, you know, the impact if the project is not funded. And there really isn't a way within the project description when you're describing your project, how to really fit that in. So I decided to attach that here to the coordinated plan support document to really, you know, talk about your project, really expand on your project and the impact, if any, if the project is not selected for funding. So really, you know, painting that picture for ODOT when we are looking at the project holistically. Once you have uploaded the coordinated plan support form, which is uploaded in FormStack, you will then sign the certification form. And that certification form will actually be within your 5310 application. This form is project specific, which means that you will submit it for each project being requested. So for 5310, there are multiple projects. There's, again, vehicle maintenance, preventative maintenance, there's vehicles, computer hardware, software, there's also operating assistance as well. So when you are filling out this document, you're going to want to put all of the projects that you are completing or all of the projects that you submitted the coordinated plan support form for. That document will need to be submitted again for each project that you apply for. However, this form here, you will just list those projects and only upload this once. This is just a one-time document, whereas that coordinated plan support form will need to be completed again for each each project that you do apply for. And then the authorizing official will sign this form, and then that will be uploaded to the application. So project selections. Again, the 5310 program is a competitive process with an annual application each year. So there is scoring in place for projects. Vehicle projects have their own scoring, as well as operating capitalized maintenance. So operating projects are not scored with vehicle projects. Vehicle projects are not scored with operating projects. They all have their own scoring process and point system in place. There is, a reduction in points on the application. For example, if the application has to be sent back to you, if there are any, missing documents or information is not filled out correctly, then that application will be sent back to you and you can lose points for that. In addition, just as a reminder, your reporting requirements. So if you fail to report or you haven't reported on the trips, mileage, and days operated, you can lose points on that, as well as, the vehicle utilization, mileage utilization, trips, and days operated. You could lose points as well if that vehicle is not utilized to its full capacity. I'm sure I will receive questions regarding that vehicle utilization, just because there are some agencies that have either shut down or slowed service. The report is for report period 1 and 2, so it's an average. So just please keep that in mind. Upcoming calendar year 2023 scoring criteria. So I wanted to bring attention to operating assistance and capitalized maintenance applicants. There will be additional scoring in place for any applicant that does apply for these projects. More specifically for budgeting purposes, when ODOT is reviewing operating assistance and capitalized maintenance requests, we are seeing an influx of budgets that are left or remaining balances on contracts. And so we are putting scoring criteria, scoring measures in place in regards or in relation to your drawdown history. So, definitely making sure that when you're applying for these projects, that you're not, trying to apply for numerous amounts of money and then leaving money on the table, because that also affects other projects that can be funded as well. So not applying for a project, a $300,000 operating assistance project, knowing that you only need roughly maybe 100 and 125,000 for operating assistance, which I know that's low for some agencies, but just making sure that you are budgeting efficiently and effectively. So we will be taking into account your drawdown history and creating scoring metrics and scoring criteria around that. I know I will probably get questions, will I have to draw down my full balance? No, there will be a minimum drawdown in relation to scoring as well. So ODOT is not requiring you to draw down your full capital maintenance or your full operating assistance award. There may be a case that you might not, draw down the full amount, but there will be a minimum amount in place. For the 5310 program, what's new is budget rollover. So I know, within the program, there has been in the past able to roll over balances. That will cease from calendar year 2021 moving forward. We will start with new balances each year. So it is important that you draw down those balances as well, because those balances will not roll over into the next year. Again, important dates to remember: the application will be published this Monday, and I will send out that email to you along with the application due date, which is Friday, April 30th. Applications will be reviewed and scored through the months of May and June, as well as project recommendations will be made to ODOT leadership in June, and then award announcements or seeking to make those in July. ODOT does now have a new new webpage, and the 5310 has a new webpage as well. So please feel free, if you want, to go ahead and take a look at that and just review some of the information that is on there. I do try to keep the webpage updated with all of the important documents that you need, so that you're able just to go into the system or go into the web page and just download those documents. So any project that is selected for 5310 funded, if you are a 5310 subrecipient, you are subject to a technical assistance review. And TAR agencies are chosen based on a variety of risk factors, including the number of grants that you have, all of the projects that you have funded through the program, your reporting, if you have been reporting or if you haven't been reporting. And then any new administrative staff. So if there are staff changes within your agency. The technical assistance review will cover all of the 5310 awarded projects that you have to just make sure that you are in compliance with the program guidelines. So for example, if you applied for vehicle projects and operating capitalized maintenance, that TAR will be there to cover all of those projects and to review all of those projects. A questionnaire ODOT will send out to the agency that will need to be completed before ODOT completes that site visit or that TAR. And then after the review, the agency will be sent an official report with any action plan. So if there's anything that is found within the report, ODOT will go ahead and send that report over to you to be completed and for things to be corrected. And then once that has been updated, that is when you will submit that to ODOT within the specified time frame of that particular document. And then I'll open the floor for any additional questions that we have. And here's my contact information as well. I do want to mention that I get several questions within the 5310 program, especially during the application process. I know this can be a lengthy process for those who are new, and then sometimes for some subrecipients that aren't new, but they're returning applicants and things have changed. Please feel free to reach out to me. If in doubt, reach out to me. I can definitely assist you. I want to make everyone successful when submitting the application. So don't, be hesitant or feel like you're asking too many questions. That is what I'm here for. So definitely ask any questions that you have. And I don't see any more questions. Well, I do see a question from Mary, and it says total product contractual amount. Mary, I'm not sure if this is a question or a statement, so if you can provide some information, please let me know. My organization is not new to the application, but I'm new to the organization, so bear with me on questions. Completely fine. Definitely ask as many questions as you need. Is vehicle match required to be secure by April 30th application deadline? Yeah, so this is a great question that you asked, Aaron, because I also get this question as well. So once the application has been submitted, there is a local match verification form, and I can, since we have some time, I can actually pull that up. We don't require the vehicle match portion for the vehicle to be submitted with the actual application. If you are selected for a vehicle project, I will go ahead and send you the local share payment once the local share invoice, once that contract has been executed. So again, that, you might receive that within the next couple of months. So it's not a quick turnaround time for the local share payment, but I do want to inform you that that is an important aspect of the 5310 application. So you will have to sign on that local share match documentation that you do have the local share available for the project. Can we please go over Black Cat versus form stack application? Yes, so Maureen, I can definitely go over that for you. Give me 1 second, I'll go ahead and pull that up since we have some time available. Alrighty, so I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. So again, once you go, this will look just slightly different from the from what you can see on your end. But in the once you have access to Black Cat, this is where you will submit the 5310 application. Form stack is where you will only submit those documents that are required to be submitted in form stack. So once you get to the application, you'll see that, again, there will be check marks here that will be gray, and then everything else will be blue. This is where you will submit the entire application for the 5310 program. I also want to make note that you will not be able to submit the application until you have attached a project to your application. So for example, if you are submitting an application for a vehicle project, you will need to attach a project to your application. If you are applying for 3 to 4 vehicles or however many vehicles you're applying for, you'll want to make sure you attach a project for each of those vehicles. If you are attaching a project or you're applying for just operating or capitalized maintenance, then you will want to attach those projects as well. And this is how you will actually attach those projects. So when you are on your profile, you will go to projects. There will be a project tab you'll see up here. And then there will be an option to add new. Once you have selected add new, you will select your agency. Your agency will actually already be in our Black Cat system, so you will just go down and select your agency, and then you'll select the calendar year. Calendar year is 2022, so please, this is for your 2022 application, your 2022 grant, so please ensure that you are selecting calendar year 2022, and then you're also going to select the budget type. There's capital, maintenance, and operating. So maintenance is for capitalized maintenance, and then capital is just for your vehicle projects. Again, a vehicle project is a capital project, and then there's a capital maintenance actual ALI line code. Once you have selected your budget type, that is when the activity line item or ALI will generate for, I'm just going to select one. That is when that will generate for the actual project for which you're applying for. The program guidance, and I can, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We'll reference, for example, if you're applying for an expansion vehicle, that'll be ALI code 11.13.15, whereas for a capital maintenance, that ALI code will be 117A00. So you'll see as you are, selecting your options. Again, there are many applicants that are new to the 5310 process. If you get to the project details section here, please feel free to reach out to me and I can walk you through the process of what to actually select. And then your description here, is this a replacement vehicle? Is this an expansion vehicle? Is this are you applying for capital maintenance? Are you applying for operating assistance? And then your total project cost, what are you actually requesting for that particular project? The priority here is very important. So if you're, if you have or applying for 6 vehicles, definitely marking the priority for each of those vehicles. Again, the 5310 program is fiscally constrained. Unfortunately, we can't award every project. I wish we could, but we can't. So, if I'm looking at your project and taking a look at the score and I'm not able to award all of those vehicles, having the priority there to see, okay, well, if I'm not able to award maybe this vehicle or that vehicle, they do have a priority that this is the #1 vehicle or the #1 project that they want to have selected. So definitely making sure that you're putting the priority listed there. And then also, again, the general applicant form as well as the coordinated plan support document. Those are the forms that are actually uploaded in FormStack or completed in FormStack. The application checklist is built out so that you can see which documents need to be submitted in FormStack. There are only 2 documents, the general applicant form as well as the coordinated plan support document. Those are the only 2 documents that will not be attached to your application. They will be submitted in FormStack. What will be attached to your application is a certification form to certify that you have completed the documents in FormStack. I also want to go to the Black Cat application really quickly to mention something for vehicle applicants. So when you're taking a look at the vehicle cost worksheets, I'm not going to go through all of the vehicle cost worksheets, but I just want to bring your attention to the total project section, this section here. when we are asking the cost of the project, you want to refer to the grand total cost of that particular project, not the total cost. You're wanting to put in the budget that you'll see in your project for the grand total cost that calculates here. If I receive your document back and the budget is showing that it reflects the total cost number and not the grand total cost, I will have to submit that application back to you to get that updated, and that will cause you to lose points. So definitely make sure that when you are filling out your vehicle cost worksheet, you're referencing the grand total cost within the application. Then I have a few more questions. Can you? Okay, I've answered Marine's question. We had to estimate an amount of grant requests on the letter of intent. Do we have to stick closely to that amount, or can we reduce, increase, or final information collected on pricing? So yes, Anne, the letter of intent does not box you in to the amount that you requested. Again, it is just an estimate. So if you have to, reduce or you rebudget it, and there's a different amount that you will need to put in the actual application, that's completely fine. The application or the amount really is what's set in stone once you apply, but the letter of intent can change from the application, just as the project as well. So if, for example, you've completed the letter of intent and you've only applied for a vehicle project, and you've decided, oh, well, within the webinar, I've heard about capital maintenance and operating assistance, and I think that will, benefit our agency, but you didn't apply for that in a letter of intent, that's completely fine. You can apply for that within the 5310 application. You are not stuck to what you've applied for within the letter of intent. When will the local share be required to be paid? So you'll receive, again, for a vehicle project, the local share will be, the local share invoice will be sent to you once the local share invoice has been sent out to you, and that'll have the information regarding when it's actually due. The SAM code needed. I use the SAM program for my ODOT grant submissions each month. Is this the same program? So the SAM code that you have will be the program, will be the code that you use for ODOT. And I can send out that link to you so that you can just make sure that you are registered for SAM. So will the scoring based on 2020 and 2021 take into consideration how COVID has affected the operation budgets? So Michelle, are you referring to how scoring will be developed for calendar year 2023? If that is the case, yes. Again, that is where the history of the drawdowns will take place. Where ODOT is not going to just say, hey, if they've only drawn down 50% of their project, it's not going to be a guesstimated number. We're definitely going to take a look at the historical data to see, how all projects or all applicants of operating and capitalized maintenance has, have drawn down their budgets to develop that scoring process. If applying for more than one vehicle, is each vehicle considered a separate project? Yes, that is correct. Each vehicle is considered a separate project. So when you are completing your 5310 application, you will need to upload more than one project for each of those vehicles. Will ODOT be taking into consideration the limited capacity of trips in 2020 due to COVID when awarding projects? Correct, yes. So again, it is, when you are submitting your reports, it is on an average basis. It is an average of your reporting period 1 and reporting period 2 as well. But we will be taking that into consideration. And how do we get access to Black Cat? Again, you will reach out to Jokum Beam or reach out to me and I can get you set up if you are a new applicant. Can we repeat which 2 forms get submitted in FormStack? General applicant form and what was the other form? So the general applicant form and the coordinated plan support document are the 2 forms that will be submitted in FormStack. Again, those forms are listed in the application checklist. The application checklist has been broken down and has been created to reflect the Black Cat system, so that when you are filling out your application or you're submitting your application, make sure you have that application checklist next to you so that when you're uploading documents, you're checking off those documents that you have uploaded. Not sure what you mean by what to put in that priority box. So on the priority box, you'll select if you have 5 vehicles that you applied for, you'll rank. So when I say priority, I mean what you rank the vehicles. So if you apply for an AV and an MMV and an LTN, you'll rank, well, the AV is priority 1, the MMV is priority 2, and the LTN is priority 3. So that's in terms of rank. Someone asks, what about mobility management? I am not really sure what you mean by that question, so please provide clarification. Does the equipment only limit to computer hardware and software? So there are, again, the equipment is for those equipments or those projects for Active 5310 funded vehicles or operations seeking to remove barriers of transportation to seniors and individuals with disabilities. So that includes radio, software, and dispatching equipment, as well as other items as well. But please feel free to reach out to me if you have a specific, because I think that might be a specific question you're asking, Kathleen, in regards to, hey, this is something I might want to add to my vehicle or to my system, and I want to make sure that project is eligible under computer hardware and software. How would you suggest we approach the application? Piece by piece or all at once? It can be saved as we go, right? Yes, so 2 parts to that question. I would suggest just taking your time on the application. There are several new documents, but just taking your time and going through the application and making sure, again, that you have that application checklist next to you so that when you are uploading your documents, you're checking off, okay, that has been completed. The application can be saved. So when you're uploading documents to the application, you won't be able to submit the application until, 1, you have uploaded every project that you've applied for. So you uploaded your project within your project section, as well as hitting the submit button. ODOT will not submit the application on your behalf, unless you submit it. So again, that information will be saved. I do want to mention that on the coordinated plan support document, I did put in a toggle button that allows you to save and resume later. So, if for example, you are completing that document and you maybe get distracted or you're working on something else, you can always submit that and resume later. Once you hit the save and resume later button, you will receive an email that says, hey, here's the link to come back to the application and to resume from where you left off. So that option is available in the coordinated plan support document. Also, to that question in regards to the application, I would just encourage you to ask questions. When in doubt or you're not sure, just make sure you're asking the questions that you need to be successful in the application. And I hope that answered your question. Roughly, if applications approved in July, then would local cost share be due likely in August 2021 or not until until January 2022, asking for budget planning as may cross fiscal years. So are you, in terms of vehicle projects, yes, as well as operating and capital maintenance. When you do apply for a capital maintenance or an operating assistance grant, you don't seek reimbursement for that project until the following calendar year. So for example, you'll be awarded in July, but you won't seek reimbursement. Your first report of when you will submit your invoice for capital or operating will be January 15th of that following year. So you'll be awarded in 2022, you'll submit your first invoice in 2023. So Anne, please let me know if I've answered your question. And I think that I'm not seeing any other questions pop up.
That is all the questions that we have right now, Kiera. I am going to provide all of these questions to you and Macy in a report, and you all will have the opportunity to respond to these questions. So if there are any additional questions, go ahead and put them into the questions pod, and I'll make sure that they get emailed to your presenters today. I want to thank you so much for your time. I will be processing this video, and then I will email the video along with the documents that are attached to the group after the webinar is completed.
Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, thank you so much to everyone that did participate in the 5310 Mandatory Application Workshop webinar. Again, if you have any questions, here's my contact information, and please feel free to reach out to me.